Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Appreciate your time on this, and I appreciate the members of the committee, and I want to thank Lieutenant Colonel Adams for his incredible service with any veterans as well. I'm the rector of Christ Church Cranbrook, which is in Bloomfield Hills. It's a congregation of about 2,000 members. We're involved historically in about 25 organizations in Detroit and Pontiac. In 2020, we raised and distributed $360,000 to people directly affected by COVID-19. And we also have a history of activism on behalf of the last and the least and the lost. And I'm also a board member of Samaritas, which is a bit larger of an organization than Bethany Christian Services, although Bethany does great work. We are the largest social service organization in Michigan. We do senior living, we do foster care, we do addiction services, we do affordable housing, and we do refugee resettlement. I have been part of the efforts to build resources so that we can welcome these refugees. We've raised close to $300,000 to make sure that we can subsidize the work that local congregations will do and everyday volunteers will do to make sure that these refugees are well settled. This is something Samaritas has been doing for 87 years. So we bring a fair amount of experience and expertise to this project. There are three reasons that I want to lift up for you today as to why I think this resolution should be passed. The first is that it's the American thing to do. My congregation happens to be split evenly between Democrats and Republicans, 50-50, which has made the past 7 years exciting. I have to tell you that this is something that the congregation as a whole supports because these individuals helped in many ways to aid our troops and to keep them safe, and we owe it to them. The second thing I want to say is it's the smart thing to do. If you look at any kind of research on refugees, they are incredibly self-sufficient. 75% of refugees are self-sufficient within 6 months of being settled. In addition, refugees have generated in Michigan about $200 million of new business and jobs in the economy. So it's the wise thing to do. The third thing I want to say is that it matters to me that Jesus was a refugee. And it matters to me that we build this kingdom work together. And the kingdom of God is greater than our parties. It's greater than our ethnicities. It's greater than our race. It's greater than our religions. It's something we all have to do, so it's the just thing to do. Thank you so much.
Are there any questions of committee members? Representative, welcome back from testifying.
Sorry, Mike.
No apologies. You got to work in other committees. That's all right. Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And these are going to be hard questions for me to ask because I'm wholeheartedly, I know what Afghans would suffer from under the Taliban if they're found having supported Americans. And so, and I know how hard and honorably our service members fought and were supported by villages to keep the Taliban out of their villages and they could live free. So my sympathy is wholeheartedly here. These are hard questions for me. State of Michigan, as a state legislator. These sound like Department of Defense to honor, State Department to commit to, and I'm wondering where the state of Michigan falls in other than some symbolic testimony. We have churches that are stepping up, human services agencies that are stepping up. I don't see anything in here that's asking the state of Michigan to do anything as a government. The State Department's doing that, Department of Defense has done that, our communities are doing it, locals, churches, other services. I just don't know why it has to come from the state of Michigan to welcome them when these communities are already welcoming them.
Your voice matters. You have an enormous responsibility upon you to represent the state of Michigan. And the state of Michigan needs to say something substantive that says that these refugees are welcome. What you will say, Representative Martin, will matter to a lot of people who might have some apprehension or some fears that are unfounded. And so your voice matters a great deal.
Mr. Chair, that's a great sounding theory, and if I was a congressman, I'd wholeheartedly agree and support that my State Department and my Department of Defense has to honor their agreements. I'm just curious to why the state of Michigan, as a government, is in this right now. I mean, Lansing can put out a statement welcoming them. The church can put out a statement welcoming. I just wanted to know how the state of Michigan, we're not funding anything, we're just making a statement. Thank you.
Representative Bazat has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple things, if you know. How many refugees are we receiving in Michigan? Do you have any idea?
What I can speak to is what Samaritas is hoping to do. We're hoping to settle 350 refugees. We do appear to have the largest catchment of refugees that we'll be resettling. We've received offers of support from churches all over Michigan.
Mr. Chair, could I follow up? How many of these, do we have any idea, are interpreters in support of the U.S. war effort? Do we have any idea how many of these are in that category?
It's hard to know because right now there's a kind of a system gets put in place that works upon family connections, things like that. So it's hard for us to predict ahead of time. We have heard, we don't have any background on their employment, but that's not because there hasn't been a dossier created for them. It's just that we tend to be the last people in the pipeline when we receive it. Now, what we have heard is that we're going to have to do some wraparound services early on because there have been things that were lost as they were making their way to the airport, such as eyeglasses, because they were going through crowd, and as you know, this can happen even today if you're in a at a sporting event or something like that. So we do know that they're going to have needs, but I would fall back on the fact that looking at refugees as a whole, and this captures many different groups, they tend to be an incredibly resourceful, resilient population. So I don't think there's going to be issues around adjustment or somehow self-sufficiency. I do think that any of them that made it through the vetting process that happens, which involves 5 different government agencies, okay, these people have likely been involved in one way or another in such an extent that their lives are in danger.
Sir, thank you very much for your testimony today. We really appreciate it.